Hey Nico, good to meet you, man.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, great. Nice to meet you as well, man. How's it going?
Real good. This is the first time we've ever spoken, I think.
Yeah, we've spoken on Facebook chat, but never face to face.
Yep. Where are you today?
I am in Chiang Mai, Thailand. That is where I'm based out of
How long
for
you been
now.
living there?
4 years, man. It's funny. I came here 2019 at the end of 2019. Back then, Americans could come and then we get 90-day visa on arrival. I thought I was gonna stay for 90 days. Then COVID happened, and
Mm-hmm.
they were like, if you leave, you're gonna have a really hard time coming back. And I was like, well, I don't want to be in America right now. That looks like the worst place to be right now. So let me just stay here. And I fell in love with it, and I really like it here.
Cool. So are you like permanently resident there now?
Um, Not like on paper, but that's my plan. That's my long-term plan. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And I mean, like I've known you for a couple of years. Did you get into copy before you moved across, or did you like done like copywriting so you could become the nomadic thing?
I uh I was doing copyright. I've been doing copywriting since 2000 like 13. So I've been
Okay,
doing it.
wow,
Yeah.
awesome. Before it became a biz op.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so okay, well, look, tell me, how did you get started?
It's kind of a funny story. I uh I became friends with these guys who were dating coaches,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time when I met them, I was in college. We became pretty good friends. Um and one of them, their company blew up, and when I was in college, I was like, I didn't really know what to do. I was switching majors all the time. My grades were not very good. So when his company started making money, he was like, "Hey, we need some more people in the company. You're a hardworking guy. Why don't you join our team?"
Mm-hmm.
So I initially joined as a high ticket closer. Like I learned high ticket phone sales.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I also did. I was actually also a dating coach for a bit during that time, but I was doing a bit of everything. And he let me, try some email copywriting and write some landing pages and some long form sales letters and stuff. And I ended up liking copywriting a lot more than anything else I was doing. You know, I liked it a lot more than creating content, and I liked it a lot more than phone sales or anything like that. So I stuck with it, and that company sort of fell apart. Uh, I ended up getting a job at an agency in New York. Um, and I ended up quitting that once I discovered, oh, you can actually freelance, like you could actually work for multiple people at the same time. You don't have to work for an agency. And that's when I started just moving around and writing copy for different clients that I acquired.
Nice. Did you find that actually like your experiences of doing sales on the phone helped you to be a better writer?
Oh, immensely, yeah. I think every copywriter, I think it's easier for a salesman to become a copywriter than a writer to become a copywriter, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Talk about that a little more, please.
So I was very, very into writing when I was in college and when I was younger and stuff. And initially my copywriting was just garbage. Like I don't know, it almost read like a cheesy erotic novel or something. Like I was using too many adjectives, it didn't sound right. Uh and yeah, I don't know, like I had to unlearn a lot of things. I had so many bad habits when it came to writing because of like my background in writing and how much I used to like, just regular fiction writing or writing essays and stuff. But with sales, you kind of learn just to get to the point faster, right? You sort of rather than trying to sound, eloquent or whatever, like salesmen sort of try to get past the nitty gritty and figure out what's bothering you or what's bothering that person or that market as
Hmm.
quickly as possible.
Yes. And right now, today, what do you focus on? Are you mostly focused on email marketing or something else?
Mostly email, but I've been writing a lot of VSLs lately, just coincidentally. Not that I look for VSL jobs, but I just acquired a client, and he happened. I don't know if you know what School is. It's like that platform. Yeah, you actually do know what School is because you're part of Email Dojo. But yeah, so he joined the School games, and he needed a new VSL. Uh, in order to try to make some extra money in the School games, and he did end up making it to the top 10, which was great.
Amazing.
Uh, and then before that, I just happened to some guy. I'm not sure how he met. I'm not sure how he found me. I think I cold emailed him like 2 years ago, and he just emailed me randomly, and he was like, "Hey, I don't need an email copywriter, but I do need a new VSL and landing page. You want to write that?" So lately, these past 2 months, I've been writing a couple of VSLs, which is nice. It's a nice change of pace, but I mostly focus on email.
Okay, awesome. Man, that's crazy. 2 years after you send him an email, he followed up with you.
Yeah, yeah, 2 years. I guess if people read my cold emails, I just put them on the next on the next sequence I create, a few months later. So it's not like I messaged him 2 years ago and he's never heard from me. He's probably heard from me a few times over these past 2 years.
Mm-hmm. But it's still good, man. And I think it's one of those things where it's like just throwing, like basically putting more irons in the fire. You just never really know. Like I've had stuff that happened 2, 3 years ago that's paying off now that I never expected anything to come from it. And there's a lot to be said for just doing a bunch of stuff, and you never know what's gonna pay off, right?
Yeah, yeah. With me, like this sort of started or this habit of just continuing to cold email people who opened my emails, it started because I did it by mistake. Uh I wasn't really keeping track of it too well at first, and I kept emailing the same people, but they kept opening, and I realized I was like, oh, as long as they're opening, why should I stop messaging them? As long as the message is different, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, I mean, I get cold emails all the time, and mostly it's just most of them are one and done, and it's an instant delete. But if someone emails me a bunch of times, as long as the emails aren't stupid or obnoxious, I, I'm
Yeah.
I'm not going to read them all, but I don't generally delete them because I'm like, hey, this person's making an effort, to at least say something interesting.
Yeah, I think too many people have a habit of just deleting cold emails, but I've given a few people a chance. I'm like, you know what? I do cold email. This guy is vigilant. He sent me a video. He's trying to be different. I'll give him a chance, and sometimes it works out.
Yeah, it can be really also inconsequential things that make me like the last cold email I opened and read was from a guy named Isaac. And the only reason I did that is my son's name is Isaac. So the name stood out in my inbox. So little things like that. I mean, and his email was it was honest. It was like, hey, I've just gotten into business. I'm getting started. I'm trying to do this, this, and this. Could we have a conversation? And, had a conversation with him and actually end up having coffee with him. Nice dude. But like, it's like there's so many of those cold approaches that people do that are this kind of like tactical, sleazy, sneaky bait and switch kind of stuff. And none of that shit pays off. It's like there's another
No,
human being
no.
on the other side. That's all you got to remember.
I tried the bait and switch stuff, and I got a lot of responses, but I also got immediately blocked by a lot of people as well.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of those responses are the kind of like when you try them, it's usually the screw you responses you tend to get from people.
Yeah, man, the bait and switch. Yeah, I'm sure it worked at one point, but now it just pisses people off.
Everyone's been baited and switched too many times, and people are more suspicious and skeptical than ever before. And it's crazy how disarming just being straightforward with people is these
Oh
days.
yeah, I smell it a mile away now. Like I can sense a pitch coming from a mile away, especially like on Facebook. And typically, if I could smell it, I'm just like, just tell me your offer. Just cut to the chase. Just tell me your offer.
Mm-hmm.
Buy a lot of shit. I might buy your stuff. Who knows?
You mentioned Email Dojo. Are you a member?
No, no, but Matt and I, we both coach for Sean. We both not coach. We do like copy critique calls.
Oh, for Sean Ferris,
Sean Ferris,
CMB.
yeah. Yes, yes.
Okay, I didn't realize. Were you in this community for a while?
Sean Ferris, yeah. So in 2020, I kind of got screwed because I was mostly meeting my clients like in person, like at events and stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
like in America, there's the digital marketer events, like the Traffic and Conversion Summit and those things. And I would go to those things a lot. I learned a lot. I enjoyed the conventions, and I would usually get some work every time I went. I moved to Thailand, and then COVID hits, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't have my normal way of getting clients. I can't do that anymore. And yeah, I stumbled upon Sean on Instagram, and I joined CMB, and yeah, that's when I started like cold outreach and cold email and stuff. Whereas before, I would just go to conventions and marketing events and meetups and stuff and meet people there.
So is cold email still your primary like new client getting method?
Um, it's my primary one, yeah, for sure.
And like just talk to me about that. Like what does that look like from the point of view of you're not somebody who's new, you've been in business for a long time. So like you're probably, at the beginning like you have to do this flurry of activity to get shit happening. But when you're established in business, been doing this for years, do you like have a maintenance level where you're just like got a trickle of cold emails going out every week, or how do you do it?
We sort of like play and pause a lot. I left a comment on Facebook, and I think you liked it, and like because I have like this system where I team up with a copywriter, and it's usually a guy who I meet in CMB who I'm training, right? It's like if I see somebody who sticks out but who's having trouble getting clients,
Mm-hmm.
I usually reach out and try to take him under my wing, and I teach him my onboarding process, and together we'll onboard a client that I've pitched and closed over the phone. That way he learns my onboarding process, and then I work. And also because I'm working with somebody else, the onboarding process goes by way faster, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to write 3 or 4 autoresponders in a week when you're tag teaming it with somebody else. When you're doing it by yourself, it could take a couple of weeks. Um, so after the onboarding process, we sort of I sort of just checked it. I let them take over the daily emails. They do the daily emails and send the weekly reports, and I check their work. Once I feel like um I don't need to look over their shoulder, I hand off the client to them. I go back to my clients and go back to the cold outreach process. That way the clients have a great copywriter. The copywriters, they don't have to do the hard part, which for most copywriters is the outreach and the sale. But with me, it's not as bad because I have the credibility, I have the testimonials, I have a good landing page.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's easier for me to book calls than like a beginner copywriter. So like because of the system, like I try to create this ecosystem where everybody gets, everybody's winning.
Nice, man. That's awesome. And you said lately you picked up um work through the school games, but like I just want to kind of ask you a little bit more about that because you said like you came up kind of writing for like dating type of niches. So do you work in biz op or B2B type offers these days?
Yeah, I try. So I really like the research I don't know. I think when I went through RNBC, I really ended up liking the research process.
Mm-hmm.
So I've um I've been trying to explore different niches for a while, and I've found that anything where like it's anything in the online education market where like the person is the face of the company and they have a social media presence and they have like actual fans, those are my favorite kinds of clients to work with. Uh, if it's a subject that I'm already pretty knowledgeable about, then that's an extra extra that's nice for me. But I almost find it like I kind of frame it in my mind like, oh, I get to explore this new topic and I get paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really, I don't really like care what the client is teaching. But you know, but if they're like the face of their company and it's like some sort of online education business, that's typically what I enjoy. Like lately, I helped one of my guys get this tantric coach.
Hmm.
And I ended up going through his stuff. I ended up really liking it, but I remember initially I was like, "Oh man, this all sounds like hippie nonsense," you know. But then I
Well,
get
this,
into it. I'm like, this is a really cool thing. Like he's kind of like teaching you new forms of meditation and like breath work and all these other things that I wouldn't really have thought would be in the course, you know?
yeah, I mean, where we're at right now is like with info products and coaching is that personality is the only differentiator left. Like there's just been such an explosion in the space that everything is commoditized, all the information's out there. And who you buy from now really just comes down to who you feel simpatico with, like values wise.
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed like a shift in and I think maybe Alan Satanic is a part of this and guys like Hormozy and Gary V, I think they might be a part of this shift where like a lot of the dudes who are the most successful, they're just putting all their stuff out there for free. Right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like if they have if they are selling something, it's super cheap. Like it's like a $5 book or a $20 course or whatever, right? And then you know, they make all the money in the back end of their funnel selling the more expensive stuff. But it's like they reel people in with like the free value. Whereas like, you know, 10 years ago when .com secrets came out, everybody was like, okay, I'm gonna take this full solution and break it up into little parts and my funnel is gonna be composed of these little parts. But now people are like, no, I'm gonna give the whole solution for as cheaply as possible, possibly even for free and then sell my more expensive shit on the back end. So it's like like you're almost seeing like the scammier gurus and you know coaches or whatever being like weeded out because just like the whole you know like just like the whole system is sort of shifting in this new direction.
Yeah, I mean, I could even like Ty Lopez is like I mean, he's always done low ticket, but like lately you just see him putting out so many low ticket offers. He's just like banging out a new offer like every couple of weeks, you know. And it doesn't matter because all it is just like getting more people to his list. And I mean, he must have really good lifetime value on the people who do actually buy from him.
Yeah, probably. Cause like his list, I mean, wasn't his commercial the oh not his commercial, his YouTube ad like the most advertised ad or like the most money was dropped on that ad ever, the Here in My Garage ad?
Yeah, for a long time, I don't know if that's still true, but yeah, I mean, that was like the one, right? Like, I mean, that's that
Yeah,
was the ad for
that was a while
years.
ago, yeah. It's funny, it became a meme, but like I remember the first time I heard it, I kind of thought of it as a meme, but then like one time I like actually listened to it. I'm like, oh, this is actually phenomenal copy. It's like this is a really well structured ad.
Hmm. He's awesome. Like people clown him all the time, but if you hear him talk, man, that guy can talk. He's extremely charismatic. He can make bullshit sound really plausible. Like he always has a good reason why for everything he says, or at least a good sounding reason why.
Yeah. I met him once. The dude definitely talks a lot. It was very interesting meeting him because uh it felt like he would randomly drop like these big bombs of knowledge very casually. Like
Hmm.
for example, one thing he said that just stuck with me, I can't remember what year I met him. It must have been like 2014 or 2015. He said something like, "Oh, there's only 3 steps to getting rich. Pick something, get good at it, get equity in that." And then he like sort of like explained it in more detail. I'm like, "Oh fuck." Like that's kind of profound. Like that's kind of, you know, simplifies a process that everybody you know, views as this monumental task, but in reality, it's, you know, I mean, it's obviously harder than it sounds, but it's like the process itself is not as complex as people think.
Yeah, I mean, everything can be boiled down to a simple three-step process, but I think that's great from a pitch perspective. But when it comes down to the doing of the thing, you know,
Oh yeah,
every one of those 3 steps has to go into three. There's 3 steps to each of those 3 steps, and then on each of those steps, sub steps,
yeah,
there's a further
exactly.
three. There's an infinite level of depth. But actually, just getting yourself going and getting something done really is all that anything boils down to. And
Mhm.
as much as like, you know, being a marketer, your job is to make things seem simple. They are simple, but things are simple, but it doesn't mean that they're easy. Because
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that's how most things are, right? I feel like if the kind like the solution is too simple, then it's probably not the right solution. If it's too complex, it's probably not the right solution. Usually things aren't that complicated, but just because they're not complicated doesn't mean they're easy.
yeah, you gotta show up and do something every day. I've been like lately experimenting with different things than I've tried before because I've like since I started this 2018, 2019, primarily worked for offers related to things like coaching. I never really got into stuff to do with supplements or health. So it's always been like info products and coaching. And then of late, I've kind of been less interested. I found I just don't have the same interest I used to have. And, you know, I had to move. Um, I decided to, what am I going to try next? And I've moved more towards like agency and lead gen. And I'm been working on that on the side now, trying to build that up. And it's amazing. Like you get into this kind of space where you've built your identity kind of around the things you do every day. And then
Hmm.
when you want to change it, it's not enough to change the activities. You have to start to change your identity or how you see yourself to be able to do
Right.
new activities.
Right. Yeah. And also like you also have to change how you talk to yourself as well, because you're probably conditioned to speaking about yourself to yourself in a certain way that
Mhm.
sort of leads to the habits that you're trying to change, you know?
Yes. With
So how'd you get started on your whole copywriting journey?
oh, I didn't know copywriting existed, but I remember. Do you know who like Adam Curtis is, or the documentary filmmaker? Oh, you know who Edward Bernays? Have you heard of Edward
Oh
Bernays?
yeah, yeah, Edward
The
Bernays,
father
yeah.
of modern public relations.
Yeah.
So I watched a BBC documentary about him. God, a long time ago now, maybe in 2008. I was like, damn, this is really interesting. Because I'd been interested in persuasion anyway and the nature of persuasive speech. But like this was like, oh, this is the commercial application of persuasion. But I
Yeah.
didn't actually still understand that copywriting was a thing. And then I started listening to James. Do you know who James Altucher is? That writer from
Yeah.
New York. I started listening to his reading his blog and listening to his podcast in like 2013. And he was talking about copywriting. I was like, what the hell is this copywriting thing? And then he had like, I think Aaron Brabham, who was a guy from like Agora Financial, Stansbury, you know, that financial copy space on talking with them. They were talking about it. I was like, oh, this is what copywriting is. I was like, then I just looked around me and it's like, damn, this shit is everywhere. Like, you know, you look at a box of cornflakes or you look at a tube of toothpaste and like there's a marketing message on every single damn thing in your living environment. And like once I realized that, I was like, this is super, super, super interesting. But
Yeah.
I didn't actually start using it till like a few years later when I actually got into because I was doing like a construction type job at that time, and then I got like that job turned into a sales job as I kind of got more experienced. And then when I got into sales, I was like, oh, this copywriting stuff is useful. I can actually use it. And then at a certain point, I was like, you know what? I think I just want to do this instead of construction anymore. And that was like end of 2018, beginning of 2019.
Nice, nice. How'd you get your first like copywriting job or your gig, your first copywriting gig or your first copywriting client?
I actually I remember who it was, and I don't remember how I got it, but I'm pretty sure it was just through, you know, like spamming Facebook comments on other people's posts. The same shit everyone does. My first client is a guy called Damon Burton, who's a well-known guy in SEO. He has a company called SEO National. Really nice dude, and has actually like been quietly building his business for like 17 years. And then in the last 2 years, like I think his business got to a size where he has a team and a lot of the day-to-day work is taken care of. He's got like a big team of like 50 plus people working for him now. But he started to really focus on personal brand and like putting his own message out there as an individual. And his business has just blown up even bigger. And it's like kind of pulling back to the same thing what you talked about the person who has the fans and the audience. Like the what you do is immaterial. The fact that other people pay attention to you is all that matters now. You know,
Yeah.
that's what gives everyone like that's where authority comes from now. Is other people listening to this dude? And if they are, then that must be somebody worth listening to.
Oh yeah, 100%. Um my the client that I mentioned earlier, I tried not to say my clients' names when I'm like talking about them,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, he actually had the same idea. He had a pretty successful SMMA business a few years ago. He got a, it was enough to like buy him a really nice apartment in Sweden, and like he got a ClickFunnels 2 Comma Club award. But in 2023, he decided to like go all in on school, and he would funnel in people from YouTube to his school, his school community. And at some point, it dawned on him. It's like the more I put myself out there, the more transparent I am, and like the more I give away value, specifically what I'm doing for my clients, and I'm transparent about it. The more money I'm gonna make, the more people are gonna like me, the more people are gonna become fans. And
Mm-hmm.
he actually, I mean, I think he makes a lot more money than for what his subscriber base is. He has like 50,000 subs, but he went from 0 to 50,000 subs in a year on YouTube, which I think is pretty fucking impressive. I feel like YouTube is definitely the hardest social media platform to grow on compared to like Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've been plugging away, putting videos on YouTube for consistently for like about a year now. Still at about 300-400 subs. Now, what I talk about is pretty niche stuff, and I haven't put like a lot of effort into growing it. I don't have like sharp editing. I don't have good thumbnails or anything like that. But I can
Yeah.
see like it's a hell of a lot of work to get it up there. But it really pays off for people who do. I was doing a customer research interview for one of my clients today, and I spoke to this guy, and this guy had been watching my client's YouTube videos and attending his free webinars for a year before he said,
Mhm.
"Okay, I'm ready to buy from you now." And the funny thing is, like, when he decided to buy, he didn't buy the front end, he didn't buy a low ticket, he went straight into the high ticket. And his first and only purchase from my client was $6,000. Like,
Yeah.
with, and like, there's so many, like the typical funnel model is like, give away a lead gen product, fine, then try to hit people with a low ticket, or ads to low ticket, and all this stuff does work. There's so many different ways to do it. Or run ads direct to a webinar, which we already also do with that client. But like, there's always those people out there who are like, I like you, I'm interested in what you have to say, I need to trust you a little bit more before I'm ready to invest. Or maybe I don't have the money right now, but when the time comes, if you treat me right and keep putting interesting stuff in front of me, I'm going to buy from you. And YouTube is brilliant for that long tail where you're just putting stuff out and people can see it years and years and years later.
Yeah. Yeah, man. You know who's fucking amazing at that? But in the most boring form, in the most boring medium ever, Alan Satanic. He puts out these crazy long Facebook posts that like sometimes I'm like, this is too painful to go through just because not because it's bad or whatever, but I just have ADHD and a short attention span. And
Mm-hmm.
some of these posts are super long. But the ones that do catch my interest that I do read through are so value packed that like because he like sporadically releases his products. He doesn't like have his products on sale uh
Yes.
all year round. So when he did release his funnel, I bought everything. I'm like, I'm gonna buy every like the front end product, all the upsells, uh minus the high ticket, uh minus the high ticket offer, but only because I just didn't have the time to be part of any mastermind at that time. But yeah, I'm kind of like that. Like if I'm really a fan of somebody, I'm gonna either just jump to the most personalized one-on-one sort of training, or like get all of their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alan's a great example. I mean, he I don't know when he exactly started, but I think from like 2018, 2019, he had launched his automatic clients funnel around that time. And he did that he launched that with a partner, with a guy named Robert. Uh,
Robert Nicholas, or I'm not
I
really.
think so. Um, and they had a group, and they grew that. And like, it's interesting, like there's people who were in that original group of his who, actually one of the guys who was one of his original clients, I'm in his program now, a guy named Jeff Miller. So like, so many people came out of that program who've since grown really well. But what else Alan did was interesting. Like, he had that program, and that was a paid traffic program. He grew that through Facebook ads. But his mastermind, his NHB mastermind, like, he grew that in a very similar way to kind of school, like a free, so he did it on Facebook. He never migrated to school. He did it like a free group. And then inside that group, he had like a second layer of group. And then there's the third layer of group, there's the free, there's the like mid tier, which was like $500 a month. And then his high end, which I think is, I don't know what it's about, $2,000 a month now or something like that. But like he's
I
not
don't
actually out there promoting. He's just got everybody in his group, and then people talk. His customers do the promotion for him. They talk about the product in the group, and then if somebody asks, like he gives them the link, but he doesn't actually promote his stuff in his group either. He lets other people do the promoting for him, which is really
Oh yeah.
powerful.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's brilliant. And like there's a couple of guys in the group who do such a good job. Like for example, there's this kid, Joshua Gavin, who's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely fucking crushing it. And like I see his post and I'm like, all right, like the second things cool down and I have my team hired, I'm gonna fucking pay for this and like really because like I just don't have the time to dedicate it to like any sort of mastermind at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, because of how other people talk about NHP plus and fast forward, I'm like, okay, the second I can really commit to this, I want to commit to this, you know? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
already sold on it before I have the time resources to like, really do it, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, Alan's an interesting case study because he's driven this massive authority for himself and brought a lot of inbound buyers into his funnel without spending any money on traffic and without doing the typical things a person has to do to promote, which is like, be very visible publicly or show up to a lot of events and do all that kind of stuff. He's really just done everything through to people coming into his Facebook group and seeding his free group with some high level people who had authority in their own audiences. Those people then, you know, brought their audiences along to his group with him, and he's grown from there. Because I first encountered him around like 2021, and that was in somebody else's group where there was a long thread about book funnels, and different people were sharing their opinions. But he showed up, and he had just been growing his book funnel, so he showed up with so much great information and there's so many comments that I'm sure hundreds of people follow him off of that. And he repeated the same process in a bunch of different places and brought so many people into his world through that, through other people's authority or other groups.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually recommended his free group by my buddy Connor who has a successful offer and who makes great money and who
Mm-hmm.
I look up to as a marketer. So it's like this guy who I look up to as a marketer and who's a high level marketer. He's recommending me this other guy who he speaks highly of. And it's like almost like, okay, yeah, I have to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like every like really experienced and high level marketer that I know who's worked with Alan or who knows Alan speak about him like he's like this marketing god or something, you know?
Yeah, he's done a good job of creating that perception for himself. It's really something. Um, and you said like you're so busy these days. So like, what is it like you primarily do? Is it primarily coaching, primarily just the writing these days that takes up most of your time, or what's your
It's
breakdown of your week?
ever since I've started this like two-man system, it's been I don't know, it's just been fun helping out up and coming copywriters and I actually partnered with one of the guys. This guy was a machine, you know. It's like he showed up to my coaching course even though it was 2 a.m. for him. And then he would go to like Matt's coaching course 2 days later. And then he would also do the call with Sean. He would essentially be on all four calls every single week. And
Mm-hmm.
at first he was like kind of an average writer, but I didn't really think too much of it. But then like he got really fucking good in like the span of 2 months because he was just constantly practicing, constantly. And the thing that like really stuck out to me is that he took Sean's outreach stuff and then just added an extra layer to it, right? Like he would message them on Instagram, message them through email, and if they wouldn't reply, then he would just fucking cold call them. Like he just was an absolute savage, you know?
That's good, man.
So it's like when you're taking on dudes like that under your wing, like you just it's like when you're working with a savage, like you get all these all these like this influx of calls and like this influx of like people you're onboarding and stuff. Uh so there was that. Before that, I was working with a client who ended up not being a very good experience. Like the deal was, I'd work with him and I'd get some equity.
Hmm.
But I don't want to speak about. I don't want to speak negatively about anybody I've worked with. So let's just say it didn't work out too well, and but unfortunately that took up a lot of time. So I just haven't had. I've just been working like 40, 50, 60 hour weeks when when I and I hear all these NHP plus calls are like 3 hours long.
They're long. Yeah, I was a member for about 10 months. You got to commit a lot of time. And like they're really good. I learned so much, but yeah, it did come to a point where I was just like, I can't commit this time anymore. I'm married, I have kids, I've got a family. I just
Yeah.
couldn't do it. But I mean, it was super valuable. Like the stuff I learned there still sort of stands to me to this day. But it's interesting you mentioned the subject of equity deals there because like the idea of equity in a business, like as a marketer, is super appealing.
Hmm.
um, from what I've seen, it very rarely works out. I've seen people it worked out for. The circumstance in which I've seen it's worked out really well is someone joins a successful company and helps them become even more successful. And the owner of the company feels like this person is my golden fucking goose. I can't afford for them to leave me. I'll give you some equity in the company. I've seen that work out for some people really, really well. Um,
Yeah.
but that's a rare situation. Like I saw
Yeah.
somebody
Well, yeah.
who took a business that was doing really well already and helped them more than double it. I don't want to say anything more than that because I don't want to like reveal, identifying
Right.
details, but joined a company as a copywriter, helped that company more than double their revenue in a short space of time. And the owner of the business saying, "You're not going fucking anywhere. You're my partner now." And that worked out really great for both of them. And that business is
Uh,
still growing. So really cool. But more typically, and like a situation I've been burned by myself as a copywriter, is this idea of like you're going to consult for equity or you're going to write for equity, and more often than not, that's put out by somebody who I doesn't have money or is just older and more experienced and manipulative enough to kind of blow smoke up your ass with the promise of some future gain that never quite materializes.
right. Yeah. I do equity deals with my email copywriting, but it's very, very different. I actually wrote a comment on how I do it, how I structure it, and it's like for the first 3 months we have like a base, like what we charge our clients, and during that 3 months we do all the onboarding stuff, which usually doesn't take more than a month. And then if they're in the spam folder, if they're like going straight to spam, or if like they have like a high percentage of emails going to the promo tab, then we try to fix the deliverability and stuff. So we give them that like 3 month grace period. Uh, and hopefully by the end of the 3 months, we can figure out what's like a good average of what they're netting with email, right? And then and every client is different. Every client's email list health is different. So sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes people just say no to the equity part, which is fine. But if they do say yes, it's only because we're already netting them 3 times more than what they're paying us.
Mm-hmm.
And and so like the way I structure it is like, okay, we're bringing you 3x of what you're paying us. Um, let's say hypothetically, the average the netting with email is 20,000 a month. What I would do is like, okay, 20,000 is the average. Anything above 20,000, I want 20% of. And since they're already getting that 3x return, most of them are like, yeah, of course, that's fine. So it's like if they make 25,000 that month, I will get my base salary, and then 20% of 5,000, which is 2 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, and most business owners are like really happy about that because I'm also incentivized to work harder to make them more money.
Yeah, so there's multiple things I like about that structure. The first one is it's it's essentially you're filtering out people who are just making a big promise with no intentions of ever paying you, or people who are broke pretending they've got money because they have to
Yeah,
pay you at the beginning. So that's the first part.
exactly.
That's good. Filter out all the bums. Then the second part is like you're not actually jumping the gun and trying to marry somebody when they just want to meet you for coffee. You're you're actually
Yeah,
taking some time, 3 months, to build a relationship, uh, and work together So after 3 months of working together are done, there's a fair amount of trust built up where they know what you're about and you know what they're about. And there's a feeling like, hey, we can, we're already doing well together. And we can actually probably even do a lot more together. So you're on a solid foundation. The third thing I like about this is like you've tiered the idea of like your uh, performance pay or percentage or piece of the action or whatever you want to call it is not from the baseline of zero. It's above a certain threshold. So it's like it's over the line revenue. It's not money that they already had. You're not coming and saying, hey, that's a nice looking steak you got there. Give me a bite. You're saying, hey, I've got this nice box of steaks here. Should we throw them on the barbecue and enjoy them together? It's a very good
Exactly.
way of doing
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes I get a guy with a list who was really burnt out. Like a few years ago, I had a guy who had like a 7% open rate.
Mm-hmm.
It took This is the only guy where it took me. This is why I came up with the 3 month thing, because it's the only guy who took me 3 months just to get him to like a 15% open rate, right? Just to get him out of the spam folder. It took me like 3 months with this guy. And I'm sure there are people who have wrecked their email list a lot worse, and it takes a lot longer for some people. But yeah, part of the reason I give that 3 month threshold was because of this client, and it took me about 6 months to get him to over a 30% open rate. So with him, I couldn't really do the equity deal until much later. But at that point, he went from like making nothing. I think he was like losing money because he had such a big fucking list, and the cost to send out all those emails was costing him more than what he was making. So I took him from like the negatives to the positives over the course of like a year. So when I did bring up the equity deal, he was very on board with it.
So love it. Nico, where can people find out more about you if they want to catch up with you or connect with you?
They can find me at copynomad.com.
Oh, nice. I've seen that before. I like it. I need to go and look at that website because I've seen your URL before and I've never actually gone and checked it out. So I will do that now and I will put that in the video description. Thank you so much for coming for this interview today. Really good to talk with you.
Appreciate it, man. It was a pleasure to be on, and thank you for inviting me. Have a good one,
Cheers.
dude.